Hello and welcome back to Inquisitor Martyr. Last time we got to the third and fourth missions of the Lacon Majoris invasion on stage 5, and we will jump into that in a moment, because if I can find my cursor, we actually got some stuff just for the holidays from Neocore, the developers. So we got some Void Shards, which is kind of weird because Void Shards go into this category now. So I'll move those into storage and pull them out later. I think that might fix it. Move the meme virus over. But we have these. Alpha and Beta packs. I was really waiting to actually grab one of these using my Fate, I think is the pink currency. But we'll just quick open these up and see what we get. Hopefully some good stuff. Archaeotech Purity Seal, that's not bad. The cover regen's kind of meh. Implant that we don't know what it does, but is for the most part doable. The missions at least 4 levels are higher might be a little annoying, but it's doable. We'll actually move that over to... Actually, I'm going to move all this stuff over here quick, because this is stuff that's still valuable. What's that looking like? Wow. Oh wow, this Purity Seal sucks. 1% chance for every 3 points of current warp heat to reflect incoming damage. This character can't generate warp heat. Well, if anything, I'll keep it, because I can give it over to my... Psyker. I was about to say Caster Man, but yeah, it's a Psyker. Otherwise, yeah, the suppression damage reduction while an energy shield is active. I always have an energy shield, since I have one as a passive. That's not bad. Shard, always useful. Worse Purity Seal, it's whatever. Inoculator, whatever. But we also have this. So we'll see what we get. 5 to 8 items. Neural Implant of Perseverance. I mean, that's doable, actually. Stun Grenade, worse, but that loot quality might be worth equipping. Death Cult Blade of Perseverance. Wow. That is... I mean, that's doable, because 3 of those are just get really wounded and kill stuff. So that's kind of a dicey one. We'll keep it. I might, in my off time, run that. What's this got? Oh yeah, because I don't even know what my stun mine is. I haven't done any of that. I got that last episode. We'll just save everything. I hate just storing all this stuff, but there's so much that I don't know might be valuable. I mean, these have the chance of actually being incredibly good or incredibly bad. So we'll just have to wait and see what it comes out to be.
The enemy is here, preying on the weak and using craven tricks against the defenders of mankind. Perhaps we should find their leaders and give them a fair share of their own medicine.
I've been really thinking of putting points into AoE skills, because that'll boost my Needle Barrage. It'll boost the damage and the range of it, and even like a 5% range boost is still a nice boost. I don't know, I have to really sit down and look at my skills and what I want to keep, what I want to toss. I'll probably have to burn a respec. But this is a little old news now, since I record everything in 2-week blocks. But Space Marine 2 got announced. Absolutely was not expecting it. Made by Saber, so it's not the same guys behind Space Marine 1, that was Relic. But I do have faith in Saber. Saber Interactive has done good games in the past. So, I got faith. Hopefully they don't screw it up. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it's guaranteed to be great, because, I mean, no studio now, you can guarantee that. I saw people sitting there like, oh, one of the writers worked on a RuPaul's Drag Race game. If you don't know the significance of that, it's like drag queen, not drag racing, like racing vehicles. It's people who dress like women. But, you know, as much as I'm like, oh man, that doesn't look good for a Space Marine game, to have a writer for that, it's also like a paycheck, so I can't sit here and be like, oh man, it's bound to fail. No, they could do a fantastic job. Just because they worked on one thing doesn't mean that the project's doomed to fail. And as long as there's enough people working on it who have the passion for Space Marine and for 40K, I don't see a problem. People work on weird stuff, people work on whatever. It's just part of the curse of the industry. You don't always get to work on what you want to work on. That said, the trailer showed some interesting stuff. It being focused on the Tyranids. Interesting enemy choice. Captain Titus is back. He's a Primaris Marine, and everybody's a Primaris Marine now. I was a little bummed about that, but that's the direction Games Workshop is going, so I can't sit here and fault them. Be like, oh, why aren't you normal Space Marines trying to sell Primaris stuff? So they gotta do what they gotta do. That said, I do wonder how they're gonna explain it in the story if they do. If they did show gameplay, I have to kind of air quote gameplay, because there's no HUD, there's nothing, so it's a third-person perspective over the shoulder shooting at Tyranids. It looks like gameplay, but I can't 100% say for certain. And whether it is or isn't, I don't give it a lot of weight, simply because if it had the HUD, if it had everything that screamed, this is gameplay, I'd be like, oh, okay, I know what to expect. It looks like Space Marine 1 combat. You know, maybe a little less stylized than I would like. But, you know, we'll see how it goes. I'm gonna pick it up for sure. You know, I pass up a lot of 40K games, but the Space Marine is one that I really want. I am worried about how they're going to essentially keep the game afloat. Are we going to see season passes? Are we going to see a lot of that? How's the multiplayer going to be? You know, I think that's a really good question. Are we going to get something stupid like a Battle Royale? Admittedly, now that I say that, Drop Site Massacre from Horus Heresy, that as a Battle Royale would be kinda cool, like, team-based. But I wouldn't play it. It would still be a Battle Royale. I don't play them. I don't like them. I think they're very low-effort, player-driven content kind of deals. To me, it's lazy development and design choice. It just happens to make money right now. I hope that they bring back, like, the Dreadnought mode from Space Marine. It was pretty cool. I never played it myself because it was DLC. And even back then I wasn't shelling out money for, like, map packs. I hated that design. And time warp. I was gonna say portal and warp at the same time, and you get poor. But in general, I'm excited for Space Marine. If it can keep what made Space Marine 1 good, we'll have a good game. And hopefully, if it does well enough, we might actually see an Eternal Crusade 2. Or not 2, but a proper Eternal Crusade style game. You know, like a Planet Side. I would be all for it. Especially because if Saber did it, they would already have some of the assets, they'd already have a lot of the design stuff done. They have the combat, they just have to upscale it.
Incoming gas attack. Time to leave this lovely place.
And I think that would honestly be the best design or best decision. Because, you know, why would you sit here and make all this stuff and then hand it off to someone else to make the game so that they have to remake everything? You know, don't reinvent the wheel. Hearing Saber is behind it, though, that rocket went weird. It kind of plays into what I had said before, though, that studios like to just kind of go, we failed with it, never touch this franchise or this thing again. And that's kind of what Relic has been doing now. Oh, Dawn of War 3 failed, so we just can't touch 40K. I hope Space Marine 2 is good, though. I do wonder, because there's a lot you could do. You could do big story expansions and add, like, Necrons or more Chaos or something, which is all doable. Actually, that makes me wonder what they're going to do for multiplayer, because you can't have Tyranids. Because 1-to-1? No, a Hormagaunt does not equate to a Tyranid. Unless they make it so it would be like Titanfall, where you have the players as kind of the super elite soldiers, and then you have AI as the weaker guys, and then you'd have a handful of Space Marines and a handful of like Tyranid warriors or Gene Stealers or whatever it may be, and then you have guardsmen and Termagants / Hormagaunts as the garbage infantry. That would make a lot of sense. Plus, that wouldn't work as well. I was gonna say you could then switch it and have a multiplayer thing where you also get like you could play as orcs and have like Shootaboys and Sluggaboys as the generic ones, then have like Knobs or something as the players. You could do that to some... Yeah, you could maybe do it with Eldar, but I don't think it'd be that good. But you could definitely do Chaos then, and have Renegade Guardsmen.
Loading.
The big question would be how do you scale it? Like, because you can't sit there and be like, oh, you play and you pick a faction. Yeah, Mag did that, I will definitely say that. But not every game does that, and the more factions you have, the harder it's going to be to retain players, because you're dividing up the player base. What you could also do is just tie it to player level, and say, hey, you reach level 15. For Space Marines, you unlock, you know, the Plasma Pistol. For Chaos, you unlock the Plasma Pistol. For Tyranids, you unlock Scything Blades or something. And then you have, you know, bonus challenges and stuff per weapon, per faction. You could have preferences like, oh, I really want to play Tyranids today, so I will put them at like the top of my preferred to play as list, and the system will try to plunk me in there. But I don't fully know if that would work. Because, like I said, it ends up dividing the player base no matter how you spin it. And that isn't healthy for games. I mean, even you look at how bad games do, they'll have modes that last a few days in some instances and then get emptied because nobody likes them. You know, people will always flock to Team Deathmatch over other things. Except for Mag. Mag was the anomaly where Sabotage was the main game people played. Acquisition was deader than all this. Which was a shame, because Acquisition was fun. But I could talk about Mag all day. That's a video unto itself. Yeah, stuff with Space Marine. There's a lot they could do. My concern is weapon variety, because you could do cool stuff like, oh, here's named war gear.
Remarkable. A sword.
But if it's just straight up better than other other weapons and non-war gear weapons, you start to run into a problem of balance and who's going to use the generics, and it doesn't look good. I just really hope there is a multiplayer. They could do some kind of like Gears Horde mode kind of thing against Tyranids. It works. Is it great? Nah, not necessarily, but it's whatever. What would be really cool is if you played Dawn of War 2, there was the Final Stand mode where you and 3 other people would team up and fight against waves of varying enemies. You know, one wave might be orcs, another wave might be standard Space Marines, third wave might be Gene Stealers. You know, it varies depending on what you're doing, or just what they choose. And that would be really cool, because it gives players that feeling of like, hey, I get to fight a little bit of everything. It puts additional use to all assets in the game. And who doesn't like a good Horde mode? Especially because it let you unlock gear for your commanders in that mode. And at that point, you can be as unbalanced as you want. You know, you can have the absolutely cracked out... Like, you could have Phosphax rounds in a bolter. Which would poison and incinerate whoever gets hit by them, which could potentially be really overpowered in normal PvP, but in a game mode where it's just PvE, yeah, you can get away with anything. Shard. And that inoculator kinda sucks, but whatever.
The very existence of this filth defiles the Imperium. They may be great in numbers, but if we sever the head, the body will die. Kill their leaders and break their will.
It was funny though hearing about Space Marine, because I initially wasn't watching the Game Awards, because I honestly, it's just a bunch of corporate types up there just kind of wanking themselves off. I don't need to watch that. It's not that interesting. But a friend of mine, he always watches because of the trailers. I'm like, yeah, I get it. I just can't stand the self-congratulatory BS that goes on. There's very few people who I believe are genuinely humble on that stage. But I was sitting around playing stuff, and my friend texts me, he's just like, oh, Space Marine 2 got announced. I'm like, eh, bullshit, you know? I would have heard something. There's no way in hell 10 years later that they're gonna announce a sequel. And then I watched the trailer, and I was pleasantly surprised. I was actually really excited when they showed Captain Titus, because you can clearly tell it's him. And after the end of Space Marine, where he gets sold out by his own brothers in arms, It's nice to see him back. It just feels kind of weird, because the whole thing of being Space Marine, it's like, okay, you're fighting Tyranids, but there's so much going on in terms of lore right now, with from 2011 to now. I mean, we had the Dark Imperium form. You have Chaos just running rampant. It's just kind of weird to be like, yeah, the enemy is Tyranids. I don't know. Like I've said before, I think if there was kind of a looter, third-person shooter deal, I think you would have a good game. And with all the stuff going on right now in terms of lore, I think it's the best option. Is that what we're getting for Space Marine? Probably not. I don't know how I would feel about that. Because on one hand, I think it would be good. On the other hand, it would be such a departure from the first game that I wouldn't be happy. Simply because at that point, I think you can just make a different named game. I would feel like they would just be banking on the name at that point. And I genuinely hate when games, movies, books, literally everything banks on a name. Because a good game or a good product will stand on its own based on its merit. I mean, look at this game. I've been playing it for a very long time, and I still have fun. I do the seasonal stuff. I don't get very far because of some of the challenges are a little stupid, but, you know, I have my fun. I collect what I can. Season ends, delete the character, make a new one. I have my fun. Is this, you know, top tier ARPG better than, you know, Diablo and Path of Exile and the other one that I keep forgetting the name of?
Loading.
Yeah, I can't remember the name. I'll end up remembering it as I edit. But, you know, is it like the best of the ARPGs? Nah. But that's fine. Not everything is absolute top tier, and you can't really expect it to. What this game does, it does well, though. And I think it sets up for a lot of other games to do similar things. Because it shows, hey, the 40K franchise and 40K setting can be used for these kind of games. It can be used for a Borderlands or Destiny-style looter-shooter. It can be used... 40K can be used for a lot of stuff. You just have to have a studio willing to do something. You have to have someone smart enough behind the wheel to come up with something. I mean, I'd love to see a Mech Warrior style game, like Mech Warrior 5 Mercenaries, but you play as Imperial Knights. You know, you lead a lance of Imperial Knights of varying sizes, you equip what you can, fighting Chaos Knights or Renegades or, you know, even Renegade Guardsmen and tanks and stuff. You fight the Dark Mechanicus. You could fight even Chaos Demons and Tyranids because there's large enough creatures. I know that Dark Eldar have roughly Titan-sized creatures. You could fight a Brass Scorpion. That'd be cool. That's Chaos, mind you, but you know, there's a lot you could fight. Is it going to be exactly one-to-one combat? No. I mean, an Imperial Knight, in terms of size, is far taller than, say, a Plague Reaper. So that's just a Baneblade that's got all Nurglified. Would I still fight it? Hell yeah, I would. That'd be fun. You know, there's a lot of options for games. You just have to take this step. I do think studios have been a little... I understand why, but they're wary of Games Workshop, you know? They're not exactly in the best of graces for fans as of late. I don't blame the fans at all, I completely understand. I mean, people talk about how they're still using resin, like, resin molds, when you can do 3D printers that are fairly cheap and do quite high quality. People are talking about like 8K 3D printers. I didn't even know that's how they did resolution on them. But I guess that's a thing. So you could probably, if Games Workshop wanted to, they could print out miniatures far cheaper. And I think it would actually behoove them to do so, because they can get people in at a cheaper price point. I always say $35 for that Necron Destroyer load for Kill Team. I'm not paying that. I was actually talking to a friend of mine today. We were playing some Battlefront, and he had said, oh, because I was talking about 40K, and he said, oh, do you play the miniatures? Like the miniature game? I said, no. I was priced out at the very, inception. I don't have, I told him about the $35 miniature. I said, I don't have that kind of money. For one miniature, let's say it's a team of 5, and I buy special $35 miniatures for all of them. That's like $175 for a team, and God forbid if they get nerfed. If they get nerfed, I am screwed 6 ways to Sunday. Because then I have to go buy potentially a full new team. Wow, they got flattened. But that cost is just so high. I always joke around. You can have it is a cheaper hobby to do meth than it is to play 40K. 40K is just plastic meth. And until Games Workshop realizes that, I don't think it's going to change. I mean, yeah, there are other issues like the balancing. Like, their balancing's really whack because you end up just kind of getting stuck playing a certain build. Like, I know people always refer to, I think it's Meltagun IG, Imperial Guardsman, as the Leaf Blower team. Because it's, for the price point, in terms of, like, point value, it's good, and what you'd be getting otherwise, like, standard guardsmen just aren't worth the points. Standard guardsmen suck. That's kind of their point. They're meant to do a complete volume of fire, and hope you get a couple lucky hits every time. But, you have that, and I think people would be more willing to buy an army or try out some other builds if it was cheaper. I'm having some bad luck with my Space Marines. Instead of sitting here going, well, I just gotta wait till the next codex or the next edition, I could sit here and say, oh, I'm just gonna, spend X amount of money, buy a Dark Eldar army. If they're cheaper. At the point it is now, hell no, I wouldn't buy a new army. It's actually something I saw people talking about, was why are... it was on Twitter, a guy said, why are people mad about Primaris Marines? Can't really get it. And other people said it, you gotta essentially buy a new army.
Is measured in blood.
And the one thing I didn't see anyone mention that I felt was good to mention was it leaves the door... Primaris Marines leave the door open for a Primaris Chaos army. And then you have to have Chaos people buying new armies. And I saw people on Bella Lost Souls say about how there should be like a Primaris Primaris Imperial Guard army. Kind of like a genetically modified, beefier version of Guardsmen. And I was like, I do not want that in the slightest, because even if you can keep all your vehicles, you're having to rebuy Guardsmen. Because now you gotta buy the beefier, Giga Chad looking space, or just not Space Marines, damn. Keep thinking about Space Marine 2, but guardsmen, and that's not good. It's just, it's not healthy, and I think part of it is the community, too. You know, you got a lot of rule sharky dudes, especially in competitive. People need to ease up. Yeah, I get it in competitive, you need to know your rules. But you gotta get people into your hobby, otherwise it's gonna be the same handful of people. And you gotta just roll with it. You know, someone should sit there at their local shop and be like, hey, we're gonna play some 40K, we got some armies, here's, a rundown of the basic rules. Join us. And let people play for a day. I mean, that's what people do in Mech Warrior. Hell, Mech Warrior, I have seen wild stuff in terms of how accepting they are. People are so cool with proxies. I've seen people use a beer can as an atlas. And they'll just scribble atlas on the side and be like, yeah, can we all agree this is an atlas? And everybody's just like, yeah, that's fine. That's what it is now. And that surprises me because Mech Warrior's pretty cheap. Like, you can get miniatures and they're pretty cheap, and I've seen ones from, like, the 90s. And people are like, yeah, this still works. That's still a Mad Cat. That's still a Marauder. It hasn't changed. And that's pretty cool. But that's also part because of the price point. It's easier to get into, and part of that's because they make their models, I think, a bit more efficiently than Games Workshop does. And I think they'd make more money, realistically, if they switched to 3D prints, got rid of the resin stuff, dropped the price a little bit, included the terrain pieces from Kill Team box sets as a separate thing you can buy. Because God knows I'd love to buy terrain. That'd be such a big thing for me, is providing different encounters via terrain, but if I can't afford it, and it's only through certain box sets, can't really do it. And then I have to make proxies anyway. Then a tin of spam has to become a pad building. That's just weird seeing Space Marines fight around a tin of spam. That might be good. I don't fully know, but it could be good. Focus stayed on crowd kill. I can't remember what focus is, so maybe. But that is all for now. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit the like button. It helps out the channel a lot. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.